This is your place for all things Detroit Red Wings and all things Chicago Blackhawks. With your hosts, Jordan Linscott, David Barnhouse, Nick LePage, and Tim Stompanato. This is the Stick Blade Podcast. Well, everybody, there's only one thing to say. The sun is shining. So is Moritz Seider. So is the future of the Detroit Red Wings. It's a shame that the Red Wings basically have concluded all of their meaningful games for the NHL season this season. But you know what? We've been quiet the past couple weeks, but man, this past couple days, we're in the middle of a rebuild, but the Detroit Red Wings have a lot to be really happy about in their future. Tonight's episode is going to be kind of a unique one. It's a Red Wings only podcast. For those of you who aren't aware, we're the Stick Blade Podcast. We're a podcast that covers the Detroit Red Wings and the Chicago Blackhawks. Unfortunately, Tim and Nick can't be here tonight, so you get only Red Wings stuff to talk about, which is fine because you know what? The Wings have had some awesome stuff going on the past couple of days.
Yeah.
I'm going to be your host for tonight, Jordan, and for my co-host, David Barnhouse. Everybody, welcome to the show. David, how are we doing?
I'm doing great. You know, the two Blackhawk guys aren't here, so I can finally air my grievances. Nick, why does that man always able to pull off beanies? I mean, I wear a beanie. It looks like I have an egg head. That man, great head for a beanie. Tim, guy's got a great beard. It's not fair. Guy could shave at 8 a.m., has a beard by 1 p.m. I'm sick and tired of it. Sick and tired of it. Had to let it out.
But no, like I said, normally this is the Chicago Blackhawks and the Detroit Red Wings podcast. But like I said, the Blackhawks guys aren't here. So it's going to be only Red Wings stuff to talk about tonight. But, you know, it's fine because there's a lot to talk about for the Detroit Red Wings.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go ahead and just start working our way through these topics. We'll work our way down through this list and then just sort of touch on it as we go. The first piece of news, it's not official, but for all intents and purposes, Moritz Seider is winning the Calder Trophy. The guy is 19 points ahead of the next rookie, and he's a defenseman playing on the top pair. Anybody who doesn't vote for this kid to be the number one Calder winner doesn't watch hockey.
Oh, of course not. It's remarkable the season he's had with how young he is. I mean, he's playing, like I said to you before the show, he's playing years ahead of his age. Like the kid, it's just his positioning too. Like he knows where to be.
Like, let's not forget the other thing about this is he's been doing this being stapled to Danny DeKeyser. Like, could you imagine how good his stats would look if he had, I don't know, like a John Klingberg or somebody like that on his pair, you know, a guy who's in his prime, who is really another top pair defenseman.
It's like if you had to do one of those, like, you know, work picnic three-man leg races that they have you do at the work retreats, and the person you're tied to is just a dumpster fire. Because Danny DeKeyser has not looked good in a while.
It blows my mind how good this kid is at 20 years old. Like,
ridiculous.
And it's crazy because I remember going back to when we drafted him, and I, and myself included, I was kind of scratching my head about, you know, like, why is Steve Yzerman grabbing this kid who, yeah, he was playing over in the German DEL, which is, you know, a mix of teenagers and grown men, but it was one of those leagues where it's not really known for producing a lot of high-end players. Like, why are we spending a pick in the top 6 on a player here? But you know what, man, I will eat crow forever. And I will say, I'm happy I'm wrong.
Oh, I'll agree with you. Like when we drafted him, it wasn't like, oh, nice, awesome. It was more for me like, wait, who's Moritz Seider? Because I had no idea. Like he wasn't in the lists I'd been looking at. And I was just like, I mean, I trust Steve Yzerman. So if this is who he thinks he wants to draft, by all means, okay. And thank you, Steve Yzerman. Holy crap, what a pick.
So we're only a couple of years out from that draft, but in 2 or 3 years, if I wonder, like, but if you could do like a redraft, I wonder, does he go number 1 overall? Like when he really hits his prime? I mean, at this point right now, it looks like if you did a redraft, him and Zegers would be number 1 and number 2.
Oh, for sure. So let's see, like the 2019 draft. If I
So
can,
it was Jack Hughes was the number one that year, right?
Jack Hughes 1, Capo Caco 2, Kirby Doc 3, Bowen Byram 4, Alex Turcotte 5, and then Seider at 6.
It's crazy, like how good he has been as a rookie at the NHL level. And I know he got experience at Grand Rapids, his draft year, but man, for being 20 years old to be putting up 76 points as a defenseman, that's
We,
like a point per game.
I remember when we like after his amazing season in the SHL, we were like, now we just gotta pump the brakes a bit because it probably won't be the same when he comes over to the wings. It'll probably be like 70% that or 40 or 60% that. No, he's like, nah, I got this.
Um, I think the big thing for me, and I think I know it's really early to be looking forward to, next season, but I'm trying to even think about who they're going to put him with next season because Danny DeKaiser is off the Bucks. They could sign Marc Staal to another contract, which I would be okay with, but I don't know if he would be served well playing with Marc Staal. I think
Stahl's not a top pair.
no, like Marc Staal is a great bottom four defenseman, a guy who can even plug in, but I want to see what this kid is capable of doing when he has another legitimate top pair defenseman to work with.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you and I talked before we started recording, like we have the cap space. Iserman, if he feels like the second he feels like the team's ready to go, he's gonna whip out that checkbook and be like, what are we missing? Okay, hold on. Okay, got it. Like, even if it's like negotiating with other teams, the man's a master negotiator. Like, he can spot talent better than we can. I mean, Raymond Seider.
I mean, we're kind of talking about defensemen. We'll move on really quick to another defenseman who the Wings have. He's still on contract technically for the rest of the season. Now, granted, there's only like 2 games left the rest of the season. Um, and we were just talking about a Marc Staal. Marc Staal ended up being given the Masterton Award, which is a kind of a cool award. For anyone who doesn't follow it, basically, it's like a sportsmanship type award. A guy who is a veteran who shows good leadership, good sportsmanship, and quality play to younger players, which that's great to have somebody like that on the Wings. I think
Mhm.
I can't remember. Did Nick Cronwall win it one year?
That sounds familiar. I think he did. I'd
But
have to
that's
look.
kind of a cool milestone for a guy who's on Detroit to be having is to win that trophy.
I mean, yeah, he just hit his 1,000th game this season. Um, he's a great guy. Everyone seems to love him. Every locker room he's been in. Everyone speaks highly of him. Well deserved. With a young team that we have, we need good veteran leadership, and I think he is the right guy for that spot.
Um, we're still on the topic of defensemen. William Wallinder, we when we were talking about Seider before he came over to the SHL or before he became the phenom at the NHL, we were talking about his season over in the Swedish Hockey League.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of funny back-to-back years, the Detroit Red Wings have the player who wins the SHL U20 Player of the Year, and we have him this year. His name is William Wallinder. I'm not going to say that he's going to be as good as Moritz Seider because I don't think the underlying numbers show that, but it's kind of cool that the Wings have another great Swedish player in their pipeline. And again, shocker, he's playing with a club who has a lot of prestige behind it.
Yeah, like it's really great to see him developing well and him earning those, that praise and those rewards. Hopefully, it transitions over to the NHL or even the AHL if we see fit that he starts with the Griffins. Um, but it shows good things in the pipeline for our defensive prospects. I mean, I feel like we're going to be talking about defensemen for a little bit tonight because we have another one to talk about who just signed his entry level deal too. But as much as our defense isn't great right now, NHL wise, like you said, you stapled Danny DeKaiser to Moritz Seider. The future looks very good for the defensive prospects. I mean, if a couple of them turn out to be gems, we've got a very strong defensive, pairings.
I mean, and I don't really think this is unrealistic to say, but I think when all is said and done with this defensive group, I think it looks just as good as the Nashville Predators group and the Carolina Hurricanes groups looked when they were getting ready to start taking those steps and, going on deep playoff runs. I mean, I think for 3 years, the Nashville Predators were known as the best defensive group in the NHL.
Oh God, Smashville, yeah, totally. I'm just excited to see Edvinsson and Seider playing together. I don't think they'll start off being a pair together, but I think as they get a bit older, they're going to be our top bill defensive pairing.
If those two can be your number one and number two defenseman, your top pair, and you can slot Hronek down to your middle pair, where he probably realistically will end up belonging and truly belonging, you've got 3 out of your top 4 defensemen for your cup contending team established. You can find a top 4 defenseman in free agency. You're going to pay some money for it, but you can find them. It's not as hard to find those guys as it is a top pair, a true number one.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think Seider is our number one. Like, hands down.
Does it all.
Mm-hmm.
A player who kind of has been putting up really similar stats to Moritz Seider, not as good as he was in his season over in the SHL, but still a pretty similar season to him stat wise. And a player who I think actually has a little bit more of like an offensive punch to him, kind of like a Victor Hedman style player. Simon Edvinsson, our first round draft pick last year when he was 6th overall too, right?
Yeah, I think we've had just the drafts of 6. We had Raymond at 6. We've had Seider at 6. And I think Edvinsson was also 6.
Yeah, he was 6. Zadina was 6.
Yeah, Zadina fell to us at 6.
But so anyway, Simon Edvinsson, he ends up signing his entry-level contract with the Detroit Red Wings. Basically what this means is he can come play in Grand Rapids next year if he wants to do that, or the club wants him to do that rather.
Sorry, Raymond was 4. My bad.
Yeah, Raymond was 4. Seider was 6. Edvinsson was 6. Zadina was 6.
Mm-hmm.
So Edvinsson, he can come play over in the AHL or the NHL if the team thinks he's ready for that. I would like to say I want to see him at the NHL level. I think, though, I've got to see what he does at the prospect tournament that they have every year up in Traverse City. And I want to see how he looks in prospect camp with other rookies that are vying for spots, as well as against other teams in the preseason. I think he's close, but I need to see for sure how he looks against those players before I say, yes, he's a guaranteed lock for the Detroit Red Wings.
It's true. I'm just thinking, like, who our 6 defensemen are. I mean, you have Hronek, you have Seider, you have Staal.
If he resigns.
I think he will. De Keyser's gone.
Letty's gone. So Lindstrom, maybe? Lindstrom or Osterley?
Lindstrom's there. Who's the guy we traded for
Joe
St. Louis? With St. Louis, who'd we get with Sonny?
You're talking about Jake Wallman.
So Wallman, I don't know. I think Edvinsson, with the pairings we have now, I think he's going to surprise people. He may start in Griffins, but I don't think he'll stay in the Griffins.
No, and that's the thing is, like, I think he's very close already. If he's not ready for the NHL right now, I think he's very close. Yeah. It's just, I'm not 100% there on him like I was on Moritz Seider.
Mm-hmm.
Like where I was 100% on Moritz Seider, I'm at like 85 on Edvinsson. I just need to make sure that the stuff that he's doing over in Sweden, he can fully translate and make happen at the North American level. But if that stuff can translate, then yeah, absolutely. I think he's ready for the Detroit Red Wings.
For sure.
We were another, it seems like we're talking about a lot of Swedes right now.
We are Team Sweden.
The Wings had the Russian 5 in the 90s. I feel like we're like
we had the Swedish like 5, 6, 7 in the 2000s. I mean, you had Zetterberg, you had Holmstrom, you had Franzen, you had Lidstrom, you had Kronwall. I feel like there's a couple more I'm missing, but like we were a Swedish team for a while too.
It feels like the Detroit Red Wings literally pick a country and say, we're grabbing your superstars. We're going to have a team form for a while.
Yeah. But
Speaking of Swedish players, Elmer Soderblom, he got selected for the Sweden national team for the Czech Republic or the Czech Hockey Games this weekend. That's kind of again a great sign for the Red Wings. It's one of those things where you've got all of these players who were not just first round auto assume they're going to make the NHL level, guys who look like they could potentially do an NHL stint or an NHL career towards the bottom of a roster. This is such an awesome thing to be seen with our prospects pipeline.
Oh, for sure. Like seeing our prospects get recognized, seeing them pop up like, oh, they've been picked for this, or they've been nominated for this, or they're leading the points in this. Like, that's exciting to see. You think, okay, this is our future, and the future is bright.
I mean, and it's crazy. Like, I feel like an infomercial salesman. You're like, and wait, there's more. But
It's been a long time since we felt this, because I remember like before Iserman, as we were going downward, I wasn't excited about any of our guys in the pipeline. Like for a lot, like our goaltenders, like I can't remember a goaltender that I was excited about until Sebastian Cossa. Like
I mean,
Mrazek, maybe, but Mrazek didn't last very long.
no, and that's the thing is like the Wings haven't really had a goaltender who I've really looked at aside from Sebastian Cossa, like you said, who I thought, that guy looks like he will pan out at the NHL level. Like there have been a couple guys who I thought have looked like maybe they could have AHL careers, like Hayden Fulcher could have one. I'm gonna butcher the guy's name. I think it's Jorgen Van Pottelberg.
Fun name.
Like the Wings have had a couple who have looked okay, but none that I've really thought like that guy looks like he has what it takes to make the NHL.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about goaltenders, I guess, right now. You want to just move on to another piece of awesome news for the Red Wings? Because like I said, wait, there's more.
The monster between the pipes.
Sebastian Cossa is a big boy, and he's in the running for the WHL Goaltender of the Year award, and he's one of only 4 nominees for it, which I know the WHL is a smaller league, but it's still great to see that he's up for that award. And I think last I checked, he has like a 9.2 save percentage. That's NHL starter numbers. If you can get that at the NHL, that's a certified starter.
Yeah, and like you're saying, the WHL is not as big of a league, but it would be a problem if he wasn't getting recognized for something in a league that wasn't that big. The fact that he's performing very, very well in a league that it's not terrible, but it's not like the SHL. Like the fact that he's on top of that league basically with a .92 save percentage and he's nominated for goaltender of the year, that says something. Is he ready to play in the Red Wings? No, but this is going to be a step up for him, and I could see him honestly in Grand Rapids next year.
Yeah, and you know what? If the Red Wings decided to offer him a contract and say, "Hey, come play in Grand Rapids next year," I would be fine with that. Like, actually, no, they can't do that because of the stupid rules with the CHL bargaining agreement. But if the Wings were willing to were able to find a way to get him out of Grand Rapids next season, I would be all for it. But like you said, I don't think he's ready for the NHL level, not by a long shot yet. But it is good to see that this lower level league that he's playing in, he's one of the top guys at his position. This is the sort of pick where you look back and Vasilevsky was picked, what was it, 15 or 16th in the first round from Tampa?
Yeah, that was our pick.
Yeah, the Jacob Kindle pick.
Oh.
But sometimes those first round draft picks that are in the middle that you take a gamble on a guy, sometimes they pan out really good. This could be one of those picks where it's going to take a while to see it, but when it hits, it's going to hit really well.
What was the Kyle Quincy pick again? Remember we gave up a good pick for Quincy?
Was Vasilevsky the Kindle pick or was he the Kyle Quincy pick?
I think it was the Quincy pick.
All I remember is we picked somebody with it. They did nothing. And then literally the next year they were gone.
It's just painful.
I'm looking at our schedule for the topics. Let's see. All right, yeah, we have one more topic that is a quote unquote good news topic. Jonathan Berggren, and wait, there's more, is the first rookie to hit 60 points with the Grand Rapids Griffins. He did it in 68 games, just under a point per game guy. I'm pretty sure he's going to the Detroit Red Wings next year. Like, Domestikov is freeing up a spot. He's gone now.
Mm-hmm.
You've got, I would imagine either Gagne or Ernie, one of those two is gone next year. I've got to imagine this kid makes the team. They're trying to trend into like a younger team. I feel like one of those two has got to be gone in order to make room for a guy like this.
I would think so. I think Gagne would have the better chance of staying because he is the smart veteran who like can teach the players. But yeah, you're right. I think someone's going, so he makes the team. He's on the team next year.
And the fun thing to note about Berggren is he's like a player who the Wings have had him for a minute. This is one of those players who wasn't flashy straight out of the draft, a player who I think a lot of fans kind of forgot about for a while. And like, you're not seeing clips of him all the time making fancy plays. He's just doing stuff that's really efficient, stuff that is very quick, very methodical, and it's not flashy, but it gets it done.
Yeah, because he was the 33rd pick, so he was
barely a second rounder.
Yeah, and like people forgot about him because we had the 2 first-round picks with Zadina and Veleno, and people were so focused on Zadina that he dropped to us, and that Veleno dropped as far as he did to us. People forgot about Berggren for a little bit, and I think people were surprised because like, really, we took another offensive player when we need defense, and I didn't mind. I was like, Berggren seems like a fun player. You're right, he didn't come out flashy and blowing people away. It took time for him to kind of learn and adjust, and now he's taken the AHL by storm with the Griffins.
I'm looking at the schedule. I don't see any more fun news to talk about. Unfortunately, the Wings had some bad news this past week come up. So the first one,
Flash still has a job.
Yeah, that's given. For how long, I don't know. I could rant and rave about how I want him gone.
Did we ever figure out if his contract expires this year or is it next year?
I think next year's an optional extension, if I remember right.
Okay.
But for the bad news, Filip Zadina and Dylan Larkin are both out for the remainder of the season. Like I said, there's only, I think, like 2 games left in this season, so it's not long, but Zadina is basically out with an appendicitis. Had it down in Florida, stuck, in warm weather.
I feel you, Zadina. I went through the same thing, except mine didn't get removed right away.
And then Dylan Larkin is out for he's out for a surgery. He ended up getting surgery done to his, I believe it's like part of like his core of like his abs or something like that. It was kind of similar to the Jacob Vrana injury, I think, right?
I thought Vrana's was his shoulder.
Was it? No. Who had it for the core? Maybe no, that wasn't. I don't know. But anyway, Dylan Larkin is out. He's expected to be out at least for the next 8 weeks or so before he can finally start skating and stuff like that again, which is fine. It's going to give him some time to rest from, being the top line center of a professional hockey team for the entire season.
He needs a break.
And a break. Well, that's like these last 2 games, they're not what makes or breaks Detroit for this year.
We're already out of the playoffs, and we're pretty much locked into our draft spot, in terms of the draft lottery.
Like, that's the thing. If somehow New Jersey beats us this week, it's not going to be the make or break for whether the Wings are going to be picking higher or not. That's not the deciding factor. So Dylan Larkin being out, it's not, you don't hope, you're not obviously happy to see it, but it's not one of those things where you look at it and go, man, our season's down the drain.
Yeah, Chicago's 6 points behind us with 63, and we're 69. We're not moving. We're the 8th spot in the lottery.
It's unfortunate to see both of these guys out, but hopefully it gives them some good rest time to come back stronger next season. And next season is kind of, I think, when we want to really start seeing the Wings take a step forward. I mean, we've been talking about a lot of these young prospects coming through. A lot of them will not be making the team next year. That's a given, but some of them will. Some of them will get a chance to play with the club next year. And I think that's kind of when the team is going to be looking at these players and saying, okay, realistically, what do we have here in 3 years from now, in 5 years from now? And is it enough to get to the top of the mountain?
Yeah, I think next year is a really telling sign of where we're going to be at and who we're going to bring in as well. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the off season. I'm looking forward to hopefully the RNG gods are in our favor in terms of those little ping pong balls. Maybe we can move up a couple spaces this year. I doubt it, but we'll see.
Well, we'll talk about it during the off season, but I cannot stand that they don't do the draft lottery ball drawing live.
You would think it would be live and it would be before the draft. Like I think the NBA is the same. Like they do at least they do theirs live, I feel like. Or no. Do they?
I thought they were on the wheel system.
I don't remember how the NBA does it, but I feel like it's better than how the NHL does it.
Regardless, the NHL needs to put this thing on live TV. Like I've seen people say, "Oh, well, once you see who's going to get the first overall pick, the second one, it's an autofill." That doesn't matter. People would absolutely tune in to watch those lottery balls come down.
It's just so fishy to me. Like the COVID year where they were like, "Oh, it's going to be a random team and a team that gets eliminated from the bubble," and I'm like, the bubble team's going to win it. One of the bubble teams is going to win it. Like, why would they give so much promotion to that if it's not going to be a bubble team? And wouldn't you know it, a bubble team got the first overall pick, and it was the freaking New York Rangers, who were a team that didn't need the first pick.
And like that's the thing, like the cards that they do, it's not fun to watch somebody get up in front and show cards. Like
No,
that's
it's
not fun
boring.
to watch.
It's boring.
Like people can already go online and look at the stats for what teams are in what draft order. And then when those cards get revealed, you can like pencil fill in who's still there, who's not, and you know the draft order. Like those cards aren't fun to watch. Watching those balls fall and figuring out who in that moment is going to get those picks, that's fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. Very true. We had a 6% chance to get the first pick.
Again, we'll get into this, I feel like, during the off season, but if we did end up winning the draft lottery and getting Shane Wright, how much closer is the Red Wings rebuild to being over?
I think it's a hop, skipping away. I think Yzerman will be like, all right, forwards are all set. I think we could seriously consider trading away a top forward like a Bertuzzi for some good capital, maybe a good defenseman. Yzerman would be more willing to open his checkbook and splash some Ken Holland cash. I think we'd be on the verge.
It's crazy looking at this team moving forward, how potentially bright the future is going to be. And it hasn't been fun getting here. No, I think me and you both agree that season 2 years ago, where they kept losing pretty much every game, 1-5, 1-6, 2-7, 2-7, 2-5, 1-5. Like
we were a lock-in for the first overall pick odds before the COVID lockdown happened. That's how embarrassing it was. We were like already like, all right, they're the number one lottery odds. And it wasn't even like, it was March.
It was crazy. Like it's not been fun to get to this point, but man.
And it hurt because it was like 26 straight years of making the playoffs. And like, granted, yes, the last like 4 years we made the playoffs were just like, this is painful because it's like the ship's about to crash. The Titanic's about to hit the iceberg. It's gonna happen. And it did. And it just hit hard. It's like you're walking down the street and you turn a corner and Mike Tyson's just there waiting for you with a left hook. Just boom.
Yeah, I think that's everything I have for us to talk about in terms of the Red Wings news. Like I said,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of good stuff to talk about these past couple weeks.
To chime in from earlier, I was correct. It was the Quincy trade.
Okay, was it the Quincy one?
How Quincy?
Is Kyle Quincy even in the NHL anymore?
No, no.
Because it's kind of weird how some of these trades pan out. Like I looked up, what's his name? Jacob Delarose, the player that we traded for Robbie Fabry. He doesn't
Yes.
play in the NHL anymore. He's playing, I think, over in Sweden now. Like
Quincy plays. Where Quincy? Does he still play?
I'm sure he
There we go.
plays over in Europe somewhere.
I don't know. He on August 2018, he signed a 1-year deal with the Finnish club HIFK.
So he's playing over in Finland.
But it was a 1-year deal in 2018. Where is he? Where is Kyle Quincy?
Not Andrei Vasilevsky. That's where he's at.
Oh God. It's kind of like I was looking today at the Miguel Cabrera trade when we brought him to Detroit, to the Tigers, and it's like we gave up pretty much nothing for him. We gave them Andrew Miller, who went on to be a pretty good relief pitcher, but Miguel Cabrera we got for pretty much nothing.
That's sports though, man. Like sometimes you give up nothing and you get the world.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, that's pretty much everything that I have on the schedule for Red Wings news. There is one piece of league news that I kind of want to talk about.
Okay.
The Vegas Golden Knights might finally be missing the playoffs this
For
year.
the first time in their history of a team.
I mean, I'm not like actively rooting against Vegas. I actually would really like to see them win it just to shut up everybody who was hating on them their first season. But it is kind of interesting that they have been competitive for this long as an expansion team.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they drafted very well. We've talked about it numerous times. They looked at the expansion draft as like, let's take all these teams' number 2 forward line players and just make a team out of them. And they did, and it's good. They've been struggling this season with injuries, which, that'll hurt you. But they're not out of it yet. If they beat Dallas tomorrow in regulation, I think their chances shoot up pretty well.
But it is crazy that it has taken them this long to miss the playoffs potentially, and they're not even guaranteed to miss yet. I think that was the only thing league-wise that I had for news, except for the fact that the officiating around the NHL has been terrible as of late, as it's
awful
as it's been recently.
Gotta be better. It's officiating in a lot of sports leagues has been terrible. The British Premier League Soccer League, there's been some very questionable things, and they have video replay too, and they'll look at it and be like, the ball did hit him in the arm, but I don't think it's a handball. Okay. But we need to train refs in sports better. If this is your job, do your job. Like you or me, we screw up on our job. We do bad in an evaluation or an observation or things like that. It hurts us. Referees, I don't see them getting punished for anything for making terrible calls. The league just goes, ooh, we're sorry for what happened. We're not going to give you anything for it, but we're sorry.
Everything has been so inconsistent this year with the refs. It feels like so many of the calls in the NHL this year have been inconsistent. Like slashing has been really inconsistent.
Yep.
Tripping has been ridiculously inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like you said, the slashing, that slash that Sundqvist had, the slash that he had, I'll give you, that's a 2-minute minor fair. He slashed the guy on the hands. That's not a game misconduct.
But then you look right before that when we had questionable things that should have been called for us, and they didn't. Like
the Moritz Seider head hit after, he caught it, the puck in the air.
Yeah, like that. That was before that, and it's just ridiculous. I got to agree with Larkin from the beginning of the year after he got cheap shotted by the Tampa Bay Lightning player, and when he saw no call was happening, he's taking him out in hands, and he threw that punch. I have no issue with that. If the refs aren't going to do something, the players are going to police themselves.
I feel like that's one of the best things about hockey, though, is that it kind of is self-policing in that way. Like, if somebody's getting targeted on your team, somebody will go after that player usually.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But anyway, I think that's everything that I have for our show tonight. Like I said, it's a shorter one because we don't have Tim and Nick here to cover the Blackhawks news. They'll be back with us next episode, so we'll have plenty to catch up with them. And also, we're going to kind of recap the season as a whole because at that point, the season will be over next week.
Oof, looking forward to that Blackhawks recap.
They're doing their best impression of us from 2 years ago.
Except they weren't expecting to do their best impression of us. They were like, ooh, we got Fleury, we got Tyler Johnson. We had a great season last year. We didn't expect it. We're going to be awesome this year. And it was just awful.
And it's not even like Icarus flew too close to the sun thing. Like
Icarus flew right into the ground. Oh man, I can't wait.
It'll be a good one next week with Tim and Nick back.
For sure.
We appreciate you guys getting here and like catching us during this really short episode. Again, we apologize that it's a short one, but Tim and Nick are busy. Life happens, everyone. But that's our show for tonight. For your host, Jordan Scott, and for my co-host, David Brownhouse, we appreciate you guys tuning in and watching and / listening to this episode of the Stick Blade Podcast. If you liked what you heard or watched, feel free to give us a like, follow, share, retweet, whatever the social media currency is on the platform you found us. We are on YouTube. We are on SoundCloud. We're on Apple Podcast. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. So whatever avenue you found us, feel free to give us that currency. It really helps the show grow. And it's a way that if you guys, have questions, comments, feedback, whatever for the show, it's a great way for us to see it and improve the show. And also, get stuff like discussion topics, stuff that if you want us to talk about, we'll talk about. So feel free to send that stuff in. Every once in a great while, we'll get it from somebody, and we appreciate when we do. Mm-hmm. But with all that being said, again, thank you all for watching and tuning into the show. This has been another edition of the Stick Blade Podcast, and we'll catch you guys all back here next time. Catch you later.